Did you know that collectively, metro districts have as much debt as the entire Colorado state government? Did you know that debt could increase nearly 100-fold if all authorized debt was issued? As the Front Range grows, districts are popping up across the state, coming in different shapes and sizes, and with different goals. With each new district, this debt burden grows. And since working at the flood district, I've heard more than one metro district representative confidently state, "Oh, we can cover that," when asked about funding capital improvements and maintenance within their boundaries. Well, can they? What do they even pay for, and how and when are these decisions made? How do these districts determine how much to collect, and who decides what's enough? It's questions like these that sparked my curiosity about metropolitan districts. And while I'm no expert, I did my best to talk with folks that have much more experience than I. Through these conversations and a bit of research, I hope to help you all understand what to expect when you're expecting a metro district. Okay, so what exactly is a metro district? A metropolitan district is a form of special district. It's an independent government entity formed to finance, construct, and maintain public improvements that are not otherwise being provided. So where did all these special districts come from? Although special districts had already existed, their legal structure was made official by the Colorado General Assembly in 1949, which recognized special districts as a form of local government. Metro districts did not take off early on, with only about 20 in existence in 1970. But in 1981, the General Assembly memorialized all abilities and limitations of these kinds of districts in the Special District Act. By 1990, the number of special districts had grown, but there were still less than 200 in the state. This would change with the passage of the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights in 1991. Tabor required that tax increases be put to a vote, which made funding infrastructure through cities and counties more difficult. In the 2000s, Colorado saw a massive increase in the number of metro districts created statewide. Prior to 2000, less than 300 existed. That number nearly quadrupled by 2010. This graph shows just how quickly we have seen the number of metro districts increase. Even with the recession in 2008, which led to a lull in new districts, we've reached over 2,000 in existence in 2020 as the Front Range continues to develop. Basically, metropolitan districts are under the umbrella of special districts. They function much like other special districts, such as a school district or the Mile High Flood District. Just like these other examples, they provide a service to those within their boundaries. But a metro district is unique in that they provide at least two types of services, anything from fire and safety to parks and recreation to street improvements, or of course, drainage improvements. Metro districts are created to fund this public infrastructure for new development, and it does so through the use of municipal bonds. Instead of the developer shouldering the full cost of this public infrastructure, that debt is repaid by taxes and fees levied within the district's boundaries. Because they are typically created by a for-profit developer, it may seem bizarre that these entities are legal governments, but they are. Metro districts have the power to assess and collect fees to repay debt, issue tax-exempt bonds to pay for the improvements, place liens and foreclosures on a property if needed, and of course, provide the services and facilities they were created to handle. So how are these metro districts created? First, a developer determines the area they want considered for the district and submits a formal application to the appropriate city or county. City or county staff will review this application to ensure that there is sufficient need for the organized services, that the district is capable of providing those proposed services, and that they have the financial ability to repay the proposed debt generated by those services. Once staff has come to an agreement with the district, the city council or county commissioner will approve the service plan and application. The final approval step comes from the district court, which legally creates the Metro District. Once formed, the Metro District is free to hold elections in order to officially create the Metro District, elect board members, and vote on the amount of authorized debt and its repayment schedule. While each Metro District may operate differently, they do have some commonalities. Each is required to have a Metro District board made up of 5 to 7 members. Each board member is required to be a property owner within the district. Since Metro Districts are normally created before any houses are built, nearly all are initially run by developers. As districts age and homes are built, boards typically transfer over to be run by residents. While not required, some Metro Districts will have staff. This can range from having many dedicated staff to support from a consultant to just an attorney and a maintenance person. However, something all Metro Districts must have is a service plan. This document provides a roadmap for what and how the district will function. Through all of my discussions in preparation for this presentation, it became clear that this is one of the most important pieces of a Metro District, especially early on. Here are the key elements of a service plan. First, the description of proposed services details what public infrastructure and services the Metro District will take on. For example, constructing stream crossings and channel improvements needed for stabilization. If it's a good plan, this will include future maintenance. Next, the financial plan describes how much each service will cost and how long it will take to pay off this debt. Then, a preliminary engineering survey, the district boundary map, and a construction plan will show how and where these services are provided. And finally, any intergovernmental agreements are included. These agreements describe the performance of any services the Metro District may undertake with another jurisdiction or district. These agreements delineate responsibilities, so it's important that a clear line is drawn and both sides are prepared to take on their part. For example, with a stream, the district may construct the improvements, but then turn over maintenance responsibilities to the jurisdiction. Without the proper agreement, a stream may be left to unravel with both sides pointing fingers when fixes are needed. Okay, that was riveting, I'm sure. While a service plan may not be the most glamorous thing, it does carry serious significance. Right from the beginning, this plan carves out services to be provided by the Metro District, and along with that delineation, dictates the scope and cost of improvements. The plan places a cap on debt and establishes a repayment plan, neither of which can be changed without a vote. This is, of course, important information that should be carefully planned out from the beginning. But it can feel a bit unfair for a developer to choose how and how much someone else must pay, especially when their goal may not consider the long-term needs of the community. Without foresight and proper planning, they may be setting up the future taxpayers for a difficult road. Now, before you get out your torches and pitchforks, there are many good reasons to utilize Metro Districts for public infrastructure. You may have heard a few of these. For example, Metro Districts provide a means to pay for new infrastructure without burdening the existing taxpayers. Since development costs are tied to a specific area, the district must pay its own way. Or, with some funding challenges caused by Tabor, this can be an efficient way to pay for public infrastructure if a city or county cannot. Or even, this helps homes cost less. Since infrastructure is paid by a tax over time, this lowers the upfront cost of a home, making ownership more accessible. Whether you like the idea or not, Metro Districts are an integral part to the government structure of Colorado. This map shows just a sample of districts in the greater Denver area today. Some districts, like Highlands Ranch, are so large that they function like any other jurisdiction with a large dedicated staff. Some, like Eagle Creek, are small and serve a very specific purpose. They may be even run by folks without a civil engineering or development background. But one thing is certain, no two are exactly alike. So instead of expecting metro districts to all act the same, we need to appreciate why each is unique and what opportunities or issues those circumstances might create. One thing that may significantly impact how to work with a metro district is timing. For many local governments, they will encounter a district early on during the approval process. These steps are absolutely critical. As we've discussed already, so much is decided from the very beginning. If a district is not set up for success, they may never collect enough in taxes to pay for their services. Or worse, they may create undue tax burden on their residents. Because new districts are developer-run, they may be focused more on selling homes than the long-term success of the district. Ensuring they have the appropriate level of service and that the responsibilities are understood early on can relieve a lot of headaches in the future. Most of us, however, tend to work with districts past this initial phase and may have experienced a headache or two. This is definitely true of the Mile High Flood District. With our fee in lieu or maintenance eligibility programs, we assist developments in building the drainage improvements for the district. This can be an interesting middle position because the debt ceiling has already been set, but the final design and details have not. If you've worked with developers, we understand that this may put you in a difficult position between the preferences of the local government or the flood district and the budget-focused constraints of the developer. For example, many developers may plan on using old techniques like overly engineered channels, as opposed to a more challenging but more effective natural stream design. In addition, the development process itself tends to work at a different pace than many public projects, and developers can get confused by what the reviewers want out of the design. So how do we improve this process, and how do local governments currently handle it? I've got some great examples that I hope will illustrate this a bit more. I had the opportunity to talk with some great folks from Aurora and learned quite a bit about their approach to metro districts. Aurora has consistently moved towards a more hands-off approach. In their early years, Aurora focused on individual detailed reviews of metro districts. To improve consistency, they adopted a model service plan in the 90s, which provided guidelines on how a metro district could be set up. In 2004, this model service plan was updated and used more of what they consider a guardrail approach. This service plan boils down to several key controls: a maximum debt mill levy of 50 mills, a maximum term for debt repayment of 40 years, and a total debt issuance limitation. Aurora prefers this approach because they do not consider their role as oversight of another government entity, but they do still want to protect their citizens and ensure the proposed indebtedness and repayment are reasonable. Aurora has certainly learned a lot from this process, and there are some typical types of metro districts that struggle. For example, if a district has significant changes from their original service plan, such as changing densities or uses, this may impact tax revenues enough to cause funding issues. Similarly, smaller districts that develop slowly or larger districts that don't reach their build-out can struggle to pay for infrastructure as well. Another would be the miscommunication of responsibilities. If a district is unclear on ownership and neglects some of its infrastructure or doesn't plan for its maintenance, there's sure to be challenges. Success, on the other hand, has come from some of Aurora's strategies. The guardrail approach provides limits to what a metro district can take on. If the service plan is out of sync with its services, these guardrails shift the risk of repayment onto bondholders, hopefully preventing mismanaged districts. Another important piece of their review comes with ensuring that the infrastructure proposed makes sense for the size and type of community served by the district. Keeping the district and community in step has yielded positive results. Finally, there is a need to ensure ownership is documented clearly. Aurora ensures that these responsibilities are literally spelled out within construction plans or an inspection and maintenance plan. This provides a clear document to point to if confusion occurs down the line. While their approaches may look the same, Parker provides a great bookend on the other side of the spectrum. Similar to Aurora, Parker adopted a model service plan early on. This approach included a single maximum debt mill levy of 20 mills. However, as time passed, it became clear that there were some issues with this approach. To find a better way, Parker created a development liaison committee to provide a line of communication between developers and the town. This communication resulted in changes to the model service plan, including an increase in the mill levy cap to 57 mills, as well as differentiation of the types of mill levies, now including an operations and maintenance mill as well. Parker also requires their districts to demonstrate at least one regional public improvement be provided, and reserves the right to collect some small mill levies through an intergovernmental agreement as the town deems necessary. Along with these requirements, Parker has staff that complete detailed reviews of each Metro District application. This level of involvement has helped Parker find success in partnering with Metro Districts throughout their jurisdiction. Many of Parker's procedures have come from what they've learned from unsuccessful Metro Districts that may not fully think through long-term needs of the district and have a mill levy out of sync with costs. In addition, Parker finds that sometimes confusion and issues arise from a misperception of district duties, often when a district becomes resident-run. This normally occurs because responsibilities aren't clearly transferred from developer to resident. And in Parker's opinion, a Metro District should take on more than just local improvements. If the district should exist, it should provide some regional benefit as well. To combat some of these issues, Parker has adapted based on lessons learned from their Development Liaison Committee. The feedback has improved their process. In addition, careful review of the service plan, mill levy, and costs results in districts that are well-funded but efficient. They achieve this by defining scope in the service plan and tying specific revenues to specific infrastructure and services. We can learn directly from some Metro District examples as well. Highlands Ranch is a great example of what a Metro District can be. Highlands Ranch has been in operation in some form since 1986. From 1986 to 2015, the same 5 original staff worked at their district, and 2 are still on staff today. Highlands Ranch has an exceptionally low mill levy rate compared to other districts at just over 11 mills. By 2019, they've reached over 90% build-out, putting them close to their maximum tax revenues by property. Finally, the total assessed valuation of this district currently sits at $1.7 billion. They have a 2020 operating budget of around $75 million and maintain a balance of at least 80% of their budget each year as a reserve. These are all signs of a healthy, well-run district. So how did they get here? First, they have dedicated staff with substantial experience in the district. They can leverage this wisdom towards better planning. Unlike many districts, the Highlands Ranch staff create plans for capital projects and services to forecast future needs. Alongside this vision, Highlands Ranch also has a variety of revenue sources. Like other districts, they levy tax revenues, but on top of that, they collect special revenues, such as stormwater fees. They leverage funding from partner governments, like the Flood District, and make use of a system development fee, which is a one-time fee the developer must pay per property developed. This system development fee can be particularly helpful early on, when build-out is low and funds are tight. Contrary to Parker's approach, Highlands Ranch keeps their mill levy in one pot. Their opinion is that this affords the district greater flexibility on where to spend the revenue each year. So it seems, dedicated staff and multiple well-planned revenue streams have allowed Highlands Ranch to flourish. Now, let's take a look at a different type of district that's had its fair share of challenges, You can see Timbers Creek on this map, which we'll be discussing further. High Prairie Farms Metro District is a well-established metro district formed in 1986 that's been citizen-run since 2005. An early agreement when the district switched hands between two developers has left this district with no general obligation debt, meaning all infrastructure is paid for. At the same time, this district has a low operations and maintenance mill levy of 12 mills, but this is the only significant revenue stream they have. High Prairie Farms is also nearing build out at about 90% in 2020. The district is planned for higher density. More than 2,700 homes could have been built with the original plan, but changes to the development plan will have full build out at approximately 700 units. Their 2020 assessed valuation is roughly $54 million, generating about $650,000 in revenue each year. Because of these circumstances, this metro district has been challenged from the beginning to appropriately manage their infrastructure and services. For example, the district service plan took full ownership of streams, including Timbers Creek, within their boundaries. But as the board became fully resident-run, that understanding was lost. As a result, several of their streams were not properly maintained and have since degraded. Unfortunately, the district is unprepared for these costs because they have been handcuffed by a too low mill levy meant to maintain infrastructure only. While the revenue brought in may have been enough for true maintenance, this responsibility was not understood by most of the board members focused on maintaining other aspects of their parks and facilities. In recent years, one board member with a civil engineering background has guided the board to invest some money in restoring Timbers Creek, but the district cannot generate enough revenue. And so these fixes are requiring significant assistance from the county and Mile High. While the district is hopefully reaching a solution, this issue may have been avoided with better planning and more education for resident board members early on. I hope some of these examples have helped to illustrate the variety of ways a metro district can look and operate. Here are some things to be on the lookout for if you're working with a metro district and what it can mean for our industry. Smaller districts can struggle, especially early on, to fund their services. This may lead the district to cut corners on proper infrastructure. Dedicated staff make all the difference, as they can provide expertise and adapt to changing conditions. If a metro district is run by a consultant or has no staff, they may not have a plan for the future. A board of developers more focused on selling houses or a board of residents that doesn't understand needs may not invest in maintenance as they should. Over time, their infrastructure may deteriorate. Unfortunately, most people don't see streams as infrastructure, like they do roads or parks. If neglected, local governments may need to intervene before things go from bad to worse. That's time and money we can avoid with proper planning and consideration early on. That's why it's so important to be prepared to work with a metro district. So, if you take away anything from this presentation, I hope you'll remember this. Success is only as good as the plan that built it. So we need to make sure that the service plan is a good plan. This means we should have fair and realistic costs for stream improvements. A district can't successfully handle their infrastructure if they don't know what it is or how it should be handled. So we should be mindful of what each district can manage. We need to ask ourselves each time, is it appropriate for this district to take on stream infrastructure? And finally, we can't assume that what worked with one district will succeed at another. Each specific district should have appropriate costs to manage. This means their plan should reflect the regional capital and maintenance goals of the stream network. Well, thank you all for listening. I may not have the flashiest of presentations, but I do think this is an important topic, and I hope I've left you all a bit more educated. Of course, I couldn't do this without the immense amount of help I received from those that I interviewed along the way. Thank you to each of these individuals. I really appreciate it. Lastly, I'd like to leave you all with a few resources I found incredibly helpful during my research. This first link to the Local Government Information System is a great resource if you'd like to see actual documentation of living, breathing metro districts. Thanks again.